make sure we capture this. All right. So Tom Mesaros has served in a multitude of roles since graduating from Bethel University with a BA in political science, from linguist in the U.S. Army to director of finance for the Boy Scouts, executive director of Providence Medical Foundation, and president and CEO of the Alfred Group. In March of 2014, he was appointed to the Edmonds City Council, where he served until the end of 2019. Tom currently serves as board member of the Edmonds South Snohomish Historical Society and the Giving USA Foundation based in McLean, Virginia. He and his wife, Margaret, have 3 children who all graduated from Edmonds Woodway High School. Today, he's here in his capacity as co-founder and chair of the board of the Edmonds Civic Roundtable, which celebrated its first anniversary in April of this year. So please join me in welcoming Tom.
Thank you, Erica. Can you hear me with or without the microphone? And maybe the microphone is good for the Zoom folks, so I probably should stay close to it.
It doesn't sound like it's on.
Oh yeah, it may not be on right now. There we go.
Is that Kit? Is that better?
That's great.
Oh, good. Okay. I have notes. So it is nice to be with you on a November morning in May. And I live very close by, and I thought about walking down this morning, but as I looked out the window, I knew that was not a good decision. So I decided not to. It's interesting, Edmonds Civic Roundtable for me started on an August day in 2020. And I got a call from a woman that was very active in the Edmonds community named Maggie Fimia, who now lives up in the Stanwood area of Snohomish County. And she called me and asked me to, if I would be a convener, you know, and kind of facilitate a meeting of people who were concerned about our city government. And the first meeting she wanted me to go to was with Steve Johnston, who's a port commissioner here in Edmonds, who I've known for years when our kids were both in Boy Scouts, and we went to soccer games together in days like this, standing under umbrellas and talking to each other as our kids were enjoying being in the outdoors. And so I'd known Steve for a long time. And then another person that I just met casually when I was on city council named Rebecca Anderson, which may be a name that some of you know. So the 4 of us got together and we chatted about developing an organization that could deal with some of the issues that our city government was having during that time in the late 2020s as the pandemic was upon us and dealing with that. So, you know, we kind of made a list of names, we called some people, we interacted with them and you know, kind of rolled that forward from that August of 2020 till April of 2021, where we actually incorporated and formed a new organization called the Edmonds Civic Roundtable. And the organization changed from those first conversations of what we wanted to do to respond to some of the issues in city government to what we actually became. And we actually became a better organization by April than we were when we thought about what we wanted to do back in August. And I take a lot of pride in that. And I think we'll even become better as we think about our 2nd anniversary and we think about our 3rd anniversary. And that's how you mature and grow. So today I'm going to talk to you about 3 things. You know, who are we as Edmonds Civic Roundtable? What do we do? And what are our plans for the future? So, and I'm going to do that in the next 8 minutes so that we can have some time for question and interaction. But first, I want to just introduce 2 of the board members that are here with me. Mike Rosen, who's a board member of Edmonds Civic Roundtable. Mike's just been really thoughtful about helping us think about who we are. And if you don't know who you are, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And so Mike just questions that a lot about who we are and what we stand for and what are our values. And then Carl Zapora, who many of you know here from the chamber. He's been active in a lot of different things, of course, as a board member up at Edmonds College and a past executive director with Verdon. But Carl's the vice chair of the board, and he also chairs our membership committee. So I want to make sure all of you talk to Carl when we get done today, because he wants to talk to you about becoming a member of Edmonds Civic Roundtable. So just so you're aware of that. So what's our mission? Our mission is to ensure nonpartisan good government. So one of the interesting things about Edmonds elected officials, all of our elected officials, of which there are 8 elected officials in Edmonds, all of them run as a nonpartisan. So the first one you would say, well, of course, and that's the judge. You know, we have a municipal court judge. She runs, it happens to have been a she, the last 2 judges were she's. She ran and is elected, and of course, judges run as nonpartisans. But here our mayor runs as a nonpartisan, and the 7 city council members run as nonpartisan. And one of the things that we were discovering back in August of 2020, when I had that first phone call, was that there was some partisanship happening on the council. And not that it didn't happen before. During my 6 years on city council, there was plenty of partisan opportunities. But on a number of issues, we rose above that. And what we were finding, at least what we were observing, I shouldn't say we were observing more partisanship than we had in the past. And so we were concerned about that because there's some value in the nonpartisan approach. One of the comments I would tell people, even when I was on city council, there's nothing partisan about having good sewers. We got to have good sewers. When you walk in the bathroom and you flush the toilet, you want it to work, and you want it to be efficient. And Edmonds is fortunate that we have our own sewage treatment plant. And so we have a lot of control with that, Edmonds, and other cities participate with us on that. And so they're helping to pay for the bill of having that. But we own 51%. And when you own 51%, you're in a lot of control. And we're fortunate to have that. And if you probably observed this on Sunset, there's a lot of construction going on, and we're revamping it and putting that together. And that all started about 3 years ago. So government doesn't work quickly. You got to plan ahead, you got to get the money, and then you can do the project. So this nonpartisan approach is really an important one. And in fact, what's interesting, if you watched City Council last night during the discussion about camping in our parks, some partisanship got into the middle of that discussion. And I do think that there was, they've spent 3 weeks talking about this on the agenda. Some people felt that was a little long to talk about this subject. And certainly there's discussions in between those meetings. But actually, that was a big choice for our city and a big discussion around our city, and allowed for different points of view to be presented on the table. And I think that's an element of good government, to have different points of view presented at the table. This morning, Atticus and I were visiting for the first time, and we were talking about last night's council meeting, and I said, one of the things that happened last night that I thought was even more important for the city for the long term is that one of the council members wanted to put something on the agenda, to add an agenda item. And so the council then votes whether or not to do that. And it got approved 6-1, which means, by far a majority of the council members, felt that this was worthy of discussion. There were times over the previous 2 years where that would not have been allowed because of the partisanship that had gotten into our city council. And I just thought that was a great thing, because every council member should have an opportunity to be heard. Now, there's timing and whether or not the council agenda is too packed that night. And if you can't get it on that night, at least say to that one individual council member, we can't get it on tonight, but we'll do it next week. We'll make sure that gets on. And when I was council president, and the council president kind of controls the agenda for the council meetings, that I always wanted a council member to be heard and have them a chance to put on that. And I think Edmonds Civic Roundtable, that's one of the things we want, not only have council members heard, but have all of you heard. You should be allowed to share your voice and to share the thoughts that you do have. I got to look at my phone here to see how much. Okay, I got 5 more minutes. So one of the elements, there's several elements that we discovered in our kind of plans for Edmonds Civic Roundtable that we want to be focused on, and especially when you want to have good government. What does good government look like? So I've made a list of things, and I'm just going to go through them quickly. First of all, identify the problem and identify the facts. What are the facts around this problem? When does this problem rank? How does this problem rank against other problems that the city is facing? So what's its priority in the scheme of things? Develop and debate potential solutions. So if this is the problem and these are the facts, then what can be our possible approach to discovering how we can resolve this? Communicate those solutions with stakeholders. So, even though you have 7 people that are kind of designated to decide this, and then it's the mayor's job to implement that decision, And it is also the mayor's job to bring potential solutions to the table. That I think that's a real key factor. But stakeholders all have a say. And this is where your comments are important in this. Listen. That's an important element here. You have to listen to one another. Determine the best solution. So let's get the consensus around this best solution. And then what will that solution cost? And that may mitigate whether or not it's the best solution. How long will it take to implement? Is this a long-term thing or a short-term thing that we're going to deal with? And when can we begin? When's that beginning point that we're going to do? And then when we have all those things kind of resolved, then the council gets to vote. Yeah, let's vote on it then. We got these things and we put them together. And I think, if you can have votes that are 5-2, 6-1, those are good things. And occasionally you're going to have the 4-3. I certainly participated in a lot of 4-3 votes when I was on city council. And that's okay, and you move on, and that happens. So, what do we do? So as Edmonds Civic Roundtable, what do we do? And how do we promote those ideas that I just presented to you? So we have monthly meetings. So since we started, we've had 2 meetings on the Housing Commission. Remember the Housing Commission we had? There's a lot of unfinished business there that the city has to deal with, and they haven't dealt with it yet. So it'll be interesting to see if it has. There were, Michael will remind me of this, but 16 recommendations on the Housing Commission report. I think they've addressed 1 of those 16 recommendations. So there's unfinished business, but we've had 2 meetings of that. We actually had a meeting with our new police chief that was well attended, and it was interesting. We've had a meeting with our new parks director, our new development services director. We had a meeting on ranked choice voting and what that means and how that comes together. And the best meeting was our reception at Salish Seas down at their boathouse, where we had it for elected officials. And we did that at the holiday season. And that was our first annual, and I can promise you there will be a second annual. And so look for that in December. And it was a fun party that we had down there. And so what these meetings allow is they allow for interaction. And so, one of the observations I had on city council, you're sitting there and people come for their 3 minutes, and share this. There's no dialogue. There's no opportunity to engage. There's no chance to ask a question. Though people do ask questions, and I think they naively expect an answer right then and there, and those answers don't come. So the opportunity you have with Edmonds Civic Roundtable is to come and interact and actually talk with the police chief, and find out some things from the parks director, and learn what the development services director is thinking, and the dialogue, and find out if your question is shared by others around the room, or you're the only one that has that question. And I think that's a value that we do bring to the table. So we have 4 active committees. We have a program committee, which I think is a real crucial one for us. We have an administrative and finance, all the back office things that happens. I don't know if you founded a new organization recently, but there's a lot of things that you forget that you have to get done to make something work. And our finance and administration people are really working hard to get that accomplished. We have a governance and nominating committee that's real crucial for us. And we have a membership committee that Carl wants to talk to you about. So keep that in mind as we look at the future. So currently we have 52 paid members that actually paid to join us, which we're thrilled about. We'd like to have much more than that, but that's really good. And we have about 70 on our mailing list that get regular information from us. And of course, I'm not going to tell you how to be one of those 70. I'm going to tell you how to be one of those 52. So plans for the future: continue to have quality programs open to everyone. So this was highly debated at our board meetings, whether or not we want meetings that everybody comes, or what's the value of being a member. I think the value of being a member is that you help the organization flourish, and you share the values that we share about having good government and good nonpartisan government. We want to encourage individuals to run for public office. I did that. I remember the meeting where I announced that I wasn't going to run for re-election. And I said, but I think all of you, and I looked at the few people that are at council meetings, and I said, I think all of you should think about running for public office, because having good people say, I'm going to invest my time in this city that way will make us a better city. So I would say that to all of you here. You should consider running for public office. And here's your opportunity to serve your city and to have your say and to represent the people of this city in the various things we're doing. We want to be open to everyone. And so we want to make sure that people know that we're there and they could come and interact with the various programs that we're offering to people. We want to acknowledge a variety of views, a variety of opinions, and a variety of experiences that people have engaged in civic activity. We want to research potential options. You know, one of the dreams we have is that we want to have a research committee that is looking at problems and able to delve into something deeper than you can at a council meeting or something like that, and help city council propose ideas and different views about how they can solve problems. We want to become the trusted source for information, and we think that's important for us. We want to start publishing a quarterly newsletter. And I don't know if you've ever published a newsletter, and the first one's always the easiest, but then you got to think about something the next quarter to say, and then you got to think about something the next quarter to say, and something the next quarter to say. So that may take us a little time to get that going, but that's something we'd like to do. We want to engage more people in Edmonds civic life. And you know, this is an opportunity of engagement right here that we're doing this morning. And then the last thing we want all of you to join us. And I think that's important because the more people that we get engaged, the better we'll be. So we have a website, you know, just www.edmondscivicroundtable.org. We're a nonprofit 501c3 organization, and we'd love to be able to serve you and to serve the others that are part of it. So thank you for the chance to be here. I'm open to any questions that you may have that you'd like some answer to, if I can make one up. Thank you.
If I can get in a two-part, in relation to raising money, how does the nonpartisan approach work? And what can ECR do for new candidates?
Yeah, I think, first of all, nonpartisanship, I'm going to go back to my comment about there's nothing partisan about sewers. I used to say there's nothing partisan about parks, but after last night's discussion, I may be wrong. You know, there's certainly nothing partisan about having good streets, you know, not holes in the streets. You know, one of the interesting things about Edmonds, that here's a little factoid that you probably didn't know. Every year, we replace 1% of all the water mains in the city that are going underneath all the streets and the like. So think about that. That means that every 100 years, the water system will be replaced. And why do we only do 1%? Because that's all the money we got, you know, and how do we pay for water? Well, we pay for water through your water bill. And so, you know, and we don't want to, the city buys its water from Alderwood Watershed. And so, you know, we buy from Alderwood Water District, which is kind of a wholesaler. You know, they sell the Linwood, they sell the Motley Terrace, and they sell the Briar. So what's interesting about that is we'd like to do at least 2%. So it's only every 50 years that we replace that. So we have water pipes that are breaking and then they're getting repaired, rather than, you know, we're doing it on a regular basis through maintenance. So and there's nothing partisan about that. You know, that's not a partisan issue. But, you know, so how, you know, this trauma or balance of water rates compared to, you know, this, and I think that's one of the reasons, by being nonpartisan, you're not turning that issue into something that is more difficult than what it already is. And so the second question was raising money.
What does ECR do for new candidates?
Oh, for new candidates. So I think I probably should have mentioned that. We want to encourage people to run. And so one of the things that we've thought about doing is having workshops where we said, what does it mean to run for public office? What do I have to do? It's ironic that this is filing week for running for public office. So if you want to run for the state legislature, you better get up to Everett at 5, because this is the week you got to do it. So you get till Friday in the filing season. Or if you want to run for another statewide office that happens to be on this off-year election, you know, this is that opportunity to do that. I'll say it this way. When you run for public office and you succeed, some days are more fun than others. And so, you know, I enjoyed my time on city council as I was thinking about whether I was going to run for another 4-year term. So I got appointed, I served 2 years, I ran unopposed. That it's always more fun to run unopposed. But I ran unopposed. Good news is I got reelected. My opponent didn't get any votes, so that was good. And then, but I was thinking about that running again, and I thought 4 more years. Do I want to do this for 4 more years? If it was 1 year, I might have done it. You know, I might have said, okay, I'll have more. But it is a commitment that, you know, Tuesday nights, this is where you're going to be. You're going to be there on Tuesday nights. And especially during the pandemic, it was probably very difficult to be a council member during the pandemic, just really hard. Other questions in the back?
Yeah, so when, I've been really disturbed by the extreme views on either side. Let me say that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
different sides, but, you know, far left, far right. And it's just really heartbreaking to see that happening.
And come to
nobody
Edmonds.
listening to each other.
Yeah.
And and my first impression of Civic Roundtable was, right leaning,
Mhm.
more Republican than
Yeah.
independent
Yeah.
type of thing. So I'm curious about that, and also I'm curious about the diversity of membership.
Sure. Yeah, Edmonds is not very diverse. So I think 82–83% of the population is Caucasian. The biggest minority group is actually Asian in the city. We have 2% African American and probably 5% Hispanic origins, and I think it's about 8% Asian. Asian and Pacific Islander. I'm not the chair of Edmonds Civic Roundtable because of my political leanings. Someone thinks I know how to organize an something and get it going, and so that's why I'm chair. But I'm a moderate Democrat. I'm probably a liberal Democrat in a lot of ways. So it pains me to say that we're right leaning, personally, So that's interesting. But I am committed, and as a liberal, my job as a liberal is to listen to all ideas and to be open to all ideas. And that's liberal thinking. So you go back to the early days of our country, that kind of liberal thinking was paramount. And if you read some of the debates that happened during the Constitutional Convention, they weren't solemn things. There was a certain amount of banging on the table, but though everybody's thought was heard, a deal with it. Now, I'm not advocating banging on the table. But I do advocate the fact that let's get everybody's thought on the table. And what I saw happen personally, which is why I got involved, was that everybody's thought was not allowed at the table. And as a liberal, that pains me. So I hope that responded to your
Yeah, and
question.
what about men and women?
So we have, I don't know about the membership per se. We have 3 women on our board. We've invited, I know 3 others that I personally talked to about joining the board that felt they weren't ready to do that yet, which is unfortunate, but that, this is life. So, but we're open to that. We really want that. And we have 1 African-American on our board. And let's see here. I'm thinking about other minority groups that may be represented and they aren't, which we talk about at the board meetings. How do we get those people to be in leadership roles? And it's important that we talk about it, and it's important that we act on it. Other questions that you may have?
We have one from somebody on the Zoom chat. Are there any plans to try to include the youth of our community? Given the messages of discord and the us versus them mindset they've been absorbing, it would be wonderful to create a place for them to experience bipartisanship and civil discourse.
Yeah, and so I would almost say nonpartisanship rather than bipartisanship in the sense of what we're trying to achieve. And the short answer is yes, we'd like that. We actually, one of our newest board members is Selena Killian.
She's also on there.
Oh,
she actually responded in the chat.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
I'm
glad Selena did that. And the good news about Selena, she lowered our average age by quite a bit. So, and I like to think that I'm young at heart, even though I'm not. So, but anyway, the short answer is yes. So, I know I share this with a number of our other board members. We have so many good ideas, but we're only a year old. And so and focusing on how to really get the structure so that we succeed and live to be 10 years old. And I would love to be able to do exactly what that questioner wanted us to do, is engage more younger people in this. It would be great to have. We're fortunate to have Edmonds College just right on the border of the city, even though it's called Edmonds College. We all know it's in Linwood. But engaging with some of those students and utilizing them and some of the issues that we have here in our city, and that would be just a tremendous thing. And then, just getting kids from Edmonds Woodway High School would also be a very good thing.
So along those lines, you mentioned you have monthly meetings.
Mhm.
What time do they take place? Are they accessible?
Yeah,
to-
so we decided not to have a meeting in May, so there goes, I already lied already that we have monthly meetings, or having a meeting in May. But the last Monday of the month, and if there's 5 Mondays, it's typically the 4th Monday. So I'll just say the 4th Monday of the month is we have those meetings. And we usually get an announcement out of my Edmonds News and the Beacon so that you can see, what the program's going to be. I already know that our program plan for June, I think it's 27th is the 4th Monday of June, is going to be on strong mayor, weak mayor. So what's the best approach to that? Later on, since I'm representing the organization in this talk, I won't give my personal view on that subject, but I have one. And but a lot of people debated we have the wrong form of government here, that we should have a form like, is it Shoreline or Mill Creek? They both have weak mayor systems. The city of Bellevue has a weak mayor system, which is a big city compared to us. And so, what's the difference? And I think we have a strong mayor system because that's the way it was when the city was formed in 1890. And that was the only form. There was no weak mayor system in 1890 when the city was put together. So that's what I'm over my 8:30 time, but nobody's making for the door. So
So where do you meet and what time?
we meet at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're meeting at the Waterfront Center. So that typically is our location where we meet. So the new Waterfront Center. Richard, you already had a shot, but I'll go over here.
So maybe I missed this, but can you tell me an example of your favorite accomplishment?
I think right now our favorite accomplishment is having these forums, these monthly meetings where you get to engage. Because when do you get a chance to talk to the police chief? Now, I'm glad that she's coming, to one of your meetings, and that's a good engagement. Well, when was the last time you got to talk to the Parks Director? When was the last time you got to visit with the head of development services and dealing with that? And so I think those kinds of things are important. When was the last time you get to ranked choice voting? That became a controversial subject. If you read my Edmonds News, everybody thought we had an agenda. We're trying to get the agenda across. One of our critics that was there who felt that we were being a little too liberal at that meeting, I reminded them that Alaska just voted to have all their statewide elections in ranked choice voting. So Alaska is not known as a liberal bastion of that, but they've already decided that, so they've moved in that direction. The election this November will all be ranked choice voting in Alaska. So having those opportunities, I think, is our best thing that we're having. We have a lot of city council people come to our meetings, so there's a chance to talk with someone just on a one-to-one basis that you might not have. Other questions? Well, thank you. You've been an attentive audience. I've gone way too long. But I so appreciate the chance to be here and to share who we are and what we're about and where we're going. Thank you.